These images difficult to see. The scene of a deadly attack on a woman by her estranged husband. Harder still for other victims of domestic violence.
Sometimes I think that could have been me.
Her abusive partner was also charged. Both men had no contact orders placed on them, and both were released almost immediately.
It's frustrating because even when I heard about this story in my head, I thought to myself, I bet you there was a no contact order. Or was he out on conditions for something else? And sure enough, in this situation, they are.
Investigators confirmed the man who killed his wife this week was out on bail. Warrants for his arrest were issued the morning of the attack. He was found dead just blocks from the scene. Calgary police have now asked the provincial body that reviews family violence deaths to look into the killing.
I think we owe a further duty to try to dig deeper, notwithstanding the obvious, to try to figure out the why.
Those that help victims navigate the justice system agree.
I think a critical look when tragedies like this happen are necessary. And I think it's how we can move forward together.
We have 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units.
Shelters for victims of domestic abuse reveal a growing problem. Calls for help on the rise. Use of shelters in the province up nearly 20%. No one living here now, but is it available?
It's not available. This is spoken for, and we should have a family moving in any day.
A problem not limited to Alberta.
A woman dies by their intimate partner every 6 days in Canada. So the issue is dire.
Ottawa is trying to address the problem. A new federal law requires judges to consider domestic violence in cases before them. An attempt to criminalize coercive behavior by partners is being debated.
It is a systemic problem. It's been recognized as an epidemic, and we can't just keep calling these cases tragedies and then fail to be dealing with the underlying problems.
But progress is slow, and answers aren't likely before another Canadian dies at the hands of their partner. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Pulled up.
Right now, why don't we just focus on the issue of whether parties can come to a middle ground with a proposal. So I'll have further discussions with Christine, and then I'll come back with something. Hopefully we can work something out this week then.
Sure, sounds good. And I just wanted confirmation because it leaves me in a stressful situation for the what is it? The it's June 29th at 10 a.m. I'm supposed to pick my kids up for the holidays.
Okay, so those two things. So I'll reach out to Christine with respect to the proposals for the middle ground, and then I'll ask her about confirmation for June 29th.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just need that confirmation. She's already given it in an email. I don't know if you've seen it, but the way she works is she's always got to have that final stamp of approval, or I could be standing at the door with no kids, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So you'll hear back from me this week on those items, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, I appreciate that, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for your call.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, that's good. I got a hold of Andrew. I think he knows that I was probably going to take this to the Law Society, which I think I still might, but I finally got a hold of him, and he's answered his phone here. So the gist of that was what she does is the ex. We won't use names. She's passive aggressive. She doesn't say yes, she doesn't say no, and that's one of her famous sayings. So when you comes time, she reminds you that she didn't say yes and she didn't say no. She leaves things ambiguous. So in this case, do I go to court right now, and do I take her to court and say, hey, she's not letting me see my kids for summer holidays? But I don't know that because she'll show the judge the email, and it kind of says, yes, I'm giving you the kids for holidays. But then at the same time, I'll show up to pick the kids, and the email doesn't specifically say yes. It says, I will agree to this such and such a date. And then I emailed back a couple weeks ago and said, yes, I'll take that one date available and that was the 29th of this month. And can you throw the kids' boots in also? Because I don't want to have to go and buy extra rubber boots for 2 boys if we're only going to be out for for a week, right? And she didn't get back to me. And then I phoned when I talked to the kids. I just said, Christine, I got the kids for holidays on the 29th. Can you throw the boots in? And her answer to that was, I'll get back to you. And that was a week ago, and she still hasn't got back to me. So it's a passive aggressive pattern. It's really hard to see in one instance, but this is something that's been going on since 2008. Another thing was an example of passive aggressiveness back in 2009. My one son was in kindergarten, and I said, where does my son go to school? And she says, oh, you always want to know everything so soon, she says. I said, but he's in school already, and I asked you months ago, why won't you tell me what school the kids are my one son's going to go to? And she says, oh, I'll get back to you on that. And then I'd ask my son, and of course he's in kindergarten, he's quite young, and he doesn't know the city, and he points in a direction, but it turned out he was pointing in the right direction, but it was many, many blocks away. But I asked her over and over. I even asked her mom, Erna, where my kids go to school. She says, ask the mom, Christine. And then I asked her again. I asked her numerous times, probably equivalent of 10 emails and 10 times that I asked her in person. And she'd just say, I can't tell you today. I can't remember. I'll get back to you. And so she's not really not telling me where the kids go. She's just not telling me where they go. So it's passive aggressiveness. I ended up driving from school to school. Finally, I had enough. And what do? You don't even know where your kid goes to school. Even though I was seeing my kids on Wednesdays, and at that time I don't think I was getting overnight access. I can't remember. She fought me on that, but then I finally did get overnight access. But I literally, and I didn't know high schools from elementary schools, except for one main school. I knew it was not an elementary school, but it only took me 3 schools of just driving around. I went on the internet, found the names of the schools, and one day I walked up to a school and says, hey, does my son go here? And yeah, sure enough, my son went to that school. And that's actually how I found out where my son went to school. And again, it's passive aggressiveness. It's insane. And for every thing, that's everything. That's how I had to do it. Doctors, I had to, for my son's dentist, I had to find the old dentist, and she would tell me the new dentist's name. And the old dentist didn't want to give me the name because she told him I didn't have joint custody and not to give me the name. So then I had to force it through the Society for Doctors, whatever it was called. So literally just fighting tooth and nail for every single thing. And this is a severe pattern of mental illness on her part. So that's what I do. I to fight to stay in my kids' lives. So I think Andrew probably now, even though he's a bit of a dirtbag, well, he's a litigator, and he's probably pretty good at it, and now I think he realizes that he might not want to fight too hard and believe everything she says, because he's going to get in trouble. He orchestrated him and her. I don't know how much of a part he was, but she was able to use him, which is an authority figure, to get a letter from the principal to say I was an attempted child abductor. My ex is pretty smart, but it's now time for Andrew to wisen up. Once burnt, twice shy. He's got to get it together here, and it's good to fight for your client, but if your client's doing something that's completely wrong to third parties, which are children, I feel he has a special obligation to do what's right. If I was some kind of threat or something, then put in, if there was, and that's not the case at all in this case, it's actually quite the opposite, but then you would have something, something to fight for, somewhere to go in some direction, instead of just blindly pushing me out of my kids' lives through passive aggressive and litigation and administrative hurdles. So I think he has a due diligence to not get suckered if that's what he did before. If he was led into her, trap and trying to in getting that letter to say I was an attempted child abductor. So, anyways, I rambled on enough here. Let's hope that I get to see my kids for summer holidays at least, and hopefully get some regular parenting time here modified so I can use it and stay in my kids' lives.